Welcome to your own YouTube channel, Pro Billionaires. This is the place where you'll hear unbelievable but true stories of people who were once extremely poor, completely broke, and had nothing to their name. But through hard work, smart decisions, and unstoppable determination, they turned their lives around and became millionaires from scratch. Every story on this channel is packed with life-changing lessons, powerful insights, and massive motivation that can help you grow, overcome any obstacle, and take real steps toward your own success. If you've ever dreamed of breaking out of the struggle and building a life of freedom and wealth, these stories are your blueprint. Subscribe now to Pro Billionaires and don't forget to hit the bell icon, so you're always the first to watch and learn from these incredible journeys of success. Raj, a young boy from a small village, was the son of a poor farmer. He had neither money nor any influential connections, but he had big dreams. He never imagined that one day he would be counted among the wealthiest people in the world. Raj's life was a story that would leave everyone stunned. Some people said that it was his hard work that led to his success, while others believed his luck played a huge role in presenting opportunities at every turn. But what was the real truth? That was the mystery worth uncovering. From a young age, Raj faced many struggles. His family lived in a small hut where water would leak during the rainy season. His mother worked tirelessly at home and helped with farming, while his father, despite working hard on their little plot of land, barely made ends meet. The family had only one old cycle, which was their only source of joy and relief. Raj's dreams were enormous, but he had only two things to rely on: his faith in himself and his determination. He always wanted to perform well in school, but buying books was a luxury they couldn't afford. At times, he collected old books, and other times, he studied from the notes provided by others. Raj's biggest dream was to start his own big business, but due to poverty, he had no resources. His friends often mocked him, and people said that without money or connections, one couldn't move forward in life. However, Raj ignored these comments. He was determined to create his own destiny through hard work, no matter what it took. After school, he dreamed of attending college, but he didn't have the fees. He took up various odd jobs, working during the day and studying at night. Sometimes, he worked at a bicycle shop, and other times, he worked at a construction site. Raj encountered a new struggle every day, but his belief in himself never wavered. One day, a professor at his college told him that if he worked hard in the right direction, he could change the world. This advice ignited a new passion in Raj. He decided that he would succeed, no matter the cost. But life wasn't easy. After completing college, Raj applied for jobs at many places, but he was rejected everywhere. People told him that without experience or references, finding a job was impossible. With no other option, he started working in a small company, accepting a low salary. There, he faced all kinds of difficulties, but he didn't give up. One day, Raj thought about starting his own business. However, he remembered that he had neither money nor support. But he didn't give up. He began learning about business online and started coming up with new ideas. One day, he stumbled upon an idea that could change his life. But it wasn't going to be easy. He needed money to work on this idea, and he didn't have a single penny to spare. Raj wondered if he could start with his savings, but he only had a small amount left. So, he decided to raise money in a different way. He sold his old cycle and pawned off some small items. Finally, he had enough money to get started. He decided to take small steps, but his friends mocked him. They told him that without money or help from others, nothing could be achieved. But Raj didn't pay attention to them. He found a small place to begin his business and started working. In the beginning, it was tough. He didn't have any customers. But Raj didn't give up. He kept finding new ways to attract customers and met new people every day. One day, a big opportunity came his way. A major client gave him a small order. Raj worked hard and completed the order on time. The client was so impressed that he gave Raj another, even bigger opportunity. This was the turning point in Raj's life. But this was only the beginning. Raj faced many more challenges along the way. Sometimes, he didn't have enough money, sometimes, people deceived him, sometimes, orders got cancelled. But Raj never gave up. He had an unwavering belief that if he kept working hard, success would eventually come. But did this success come solely because of his hard work, or was his luck also playing a part? That was the big question still left to be answered. Raj's journey was just beginning, but the road ahead was anything but easy. Despite the initial success with his first major client, there were moments when everything seemed to be falling apart. The small business he had started with so much hope and determination was struggling to stay afloat. There were days when he couldn't even pay his bills, let alone invest in new ideas. And yet, despite these challenges, Raj was relentless. He believed that if he stayed persistent and continued to work harder than anyone else, success would eventually come to him. The next few months were marked by constant ups and downs. Some days, Raj would celebrate small wins, a satisfied customer, a new contact, a positive review. But on other days, he was faced with devastating losses. There were occasions when his suppliers didn't deliver on time, causing delays in his orders. Sometimes, the clients who had promised big contracts would suddenly pull out, leaving him scrambling to make ends meet. Each failure felt like a setback, and it often seemed as though the weight of the world was pressing down on him. But it wasn't just the business that was difficult. Raj had personal battles to fight too. His family was worried about him. His parents, who had always supported his dreams, were now seeing the toll it was taking on him. His mother would often ask him when he was going to find a stable job. His friends, too, began to question his decisions. They saw Raj struggling, and while they wished him well, they couldn't understand why he didn't just give up and get a real job like everyone else. Despite the doubts and fears around him, Raj continued to pour everything he had into his business. Every morning, he woke up early, exhausted from the long nights of work, but he knew that this was his only chance. He refused to let the failure of one day define his future. He kept his head down, focused on the little things, and slowly, things began to change. One day, after months of hard work, Raj landed a major contract with a big corporation. It was the break he had been waiting for. The project was huge, and it was exactly what his business needed to take off. It was the opportunity that could change everything. Raj worked tirelessly on the project, going above and beyond what was required. He stayed up late, making sure every detail was perfect. When the project was finally delivered, the client was beyond impressed. This contract opened the door to more opportunities. The reputation of his company grew, and soon enough, Raj was working with some of the biggest names in the industry. Despite the success of the project, Raj's journey wasn't without its challenges. His newfound success came with its own set of problems. With more clients came more responsibilities, and soon Raj found himself overwhelmed. He was no longer working alone, he had hired a small team to help him manage the workload. But even with help, it was hard to keep up with the demands of the business. As his business grew, Raj was forced to make decisions he had never anticipated. He had to balance his time between managing his team, handling clients, and ensuring that everything ran smoothly. It was exhausting, and there were times when he felt like he was drowning. But Raj's resolve was unshakable. Every challenge, every obstacle, only fueled his desire to succeed. He knew that this was the price of success. There would be no shortcuts. He would have to give everything he had to make his dream a reality. And so, he pushed forward, even when it felt impossible. Along the way, Raj learned that success wasn't just about hard work. It was about making the right choices at the right time. It was about understanding when to take risks and when to play it safe. It was about surrounding himself with the right people, people who shared his vision and believed in his mission. And most importantly, it was about staying true to his values, even when the world around him seemed to be changing. But no matter how much Raj worked, no matter how much effort he put into his business, he couldn't shake the feeling that luck played a part in his success. It was hard to ignore the times when opportunities seemed to fall into his lap at just the right moment. There were days when everything seemed to go his way, and it almost felt as though the universe was conspiring to help him succeed. It was these moments that made Raj wonder, was his success truly the result of his hard work, or had luck played a larger role than he cared to admit? As his business grew, Raj continued to ask himself this question. He spoke to other successful entrepreneurs, seeking advice and insight. Some of them shared their own stories of struggle and failure, while others credited their success to a mixture of hard work and timing. Raj realized that there was no simple answer. Success was a combination of many factors: hard work, perseverance, the right opportunities, and yes, sometimes even a little bit of luck. But Raj was determined not to let luck be the defining factor of his success. He knew that while luck could open doors, it was his hard work and determination that would keep them open. Months turned into years, and Raj's business continued to thrive. He expanded into new markets, hired more employees, and began to build a legacy. People started to take notice. He was invited to speak at conferences, write articles, and share his story with the world. Raj had become a symbol of success, a living proof that hard work could lead to great things. But as his success grew, so did the pressure. The higher he climbed, the steeper the climb became. Raj often found himself questioning whether the sacrifices were worth it. His personal life had suffered. He had little time for friends, for his family, or for himself. The more successful he became, the more isolated he felt. It was during these moments of doubt that Raj began to reflect on everything he had gone through. He thought about the struggles, the failures, and the doubts he had faced. And in those quiet moments, he realized something profound: his success had been earned. It hadn't been just luck. It had been the result of his determination, his resilience, and his unwavering belief that he could make it. Raj knew that luck had played a part, but it was the hard work, the sacrifices, and the lessons he had learned along the way that had truly shaped his journey. Success, he realized, wasn't just about reaching the top, it was about how you got there. And Raj's story was one of perseverance, passion, and the relentless pursuit of his dreams. As Raj's business grew, so did his fame. People started looking up to him as an example of what could be achieved through sheer determination and hard work. He was invited to share his story at events, write books about his journey, and even mentor budding entrepreneurs. His success had become a beacon of hope for many who believed that if Raj could make it, so could they. But despite all the praise and recognition, Raj never allowed himself to get distracted by the fame. Deep inside, he knew that the real work was only just beginning. The success of his business had placed Raj in a unique position, one that came with its own set of challenges. For the first time, Raj found himself grappling with complex decisions that required more than just business acumen. He had to navigate the intricacies of managing a growing team, dealing with competition, and making strategic choices that would define the future of his company. As the pressure mounted, Raj found himself working longer hours than ever before. His days began to blur together: meetings, deadlines, client calls, and countless emails. The weight of his responsibilities weighed heavily on his shoulders, and at times, it felt as if he was walking a tightrope. Every decision seemed critical, and one wrong move could mean disaster for everything he had worked for. Yet, despite the immense pressure, Raj never wavered. He had come this far because he was willing to put in the work, and he wasn't about to stop now. But the challenges Raj faced weren't just external. As his business grew, he had to make difficult decisions about the future of his company. There were moments when he felt the strain of being the sole visionary, the one responsible for leading the company forward. He couldn't do it alone anymore. Raj knew that in order to reach even greater heights, he needed to surround himself with a strong team, people who could share the burden and help execute his vision. But finding the right people wasn't easy. Raj had to let go of his perfectionism and trust others, something he hadn't been ready for in the early days of his journey. It wasn't long before Raj made the decision to hire a team of professionals to help him scale his business. But letting go of control was harder than he had imagined. The first few months were full of challenges. Raj found it difficult to delegate tasks, worried that things wouldn't be done to his standards. However, as he gave more responsibility to his team, he started to see the impact of their collective efforts. His company began to function like a well-oiled machine, and Raj was able to focus on strategic decisions instead of getting bogged down in the day-to-day operations. But with success came more competition. Raj had built something remarkable, but he quickly realized that being at the top of his game came with its own set of battles. Competitors who had once ignored him now saw him as a threat, and they were determined to outdo him. Copycat businesses popped up, offering similar services at lower prices. The market became saturated, and Raj's company faced its first real test. It was a reminder that success was never guaranteed, and Raj knew he had to adapt quickly or risk losing everything. This is where Raj's ability to think strategically truly came into play. Instead of panicking, he focused on innovation. He knew that if he wanted to stay ahead of the competition, he had to offer something unique, something that couldn't easily be replicated. He invested in research and development, explored new technologies, and began diversifying his services. His team worked around the clock to create new solutions that not only met the needs of his clients but also set his company apart in a crowded marketplace. One of the most pivotal decisions Raj made during this time was to expand his business internationally. While it seemed like a risky move, Raj knew that the global market presented endless opportunities for growth. With his team's expertise and his unwavering belief in his vision, Raj took the leap. It wasn't easy. There were language barriers, cultural differences, and logistical challenges to overcome. But Raj had already faced the impossible in his journey, and this was no different. He tackled every obstacle head-on, ensuring that his company not only entered new markets but thrived in them. The international expansion was a game-changer for Raj's business. It opened doors to new clients, new partnerships, and new opportunities that Raj had never dreamed possible. His company went from being a local player to a global force. Raj had done what few people believed was possible. He had turned a small, struggling business into an international powerhouse. Despite the success, Raj's journey was far from over. He was constantly learning, growing, and adapting to the ever-changing landscape of business. He realized that true success wasn't about resting on his laurels, it was about continually pushing himself to evolve and stay ahead of the curve. Raj began to focus not just on growing his business, but also on giving back to the community. He started charitable initiatives, supporting education for underprivileged children and helping young entrepreneurs get the resources they needed to succeed. But no matter how far he had come, Raj still couldn't shake the question that had plagued him for years: was it hard work or luck that had brought him this far? Had his tireless determination been the sole reason for his success, or was there an element of luck that played a role in opening the doors for him? Raj didn't have a clear answer, but he had come to realize that perhaps it didn't matter. Success, he understood, was the result of a combination of factors: hard work, persistence, the right timing, and yes, sometimes, a bit of luck. But what mattered most was how he had responded to the opportunities that came his way. Now, as Raj looked back on his journey, he saw it as a testament to the power of resilience. He had faced countless setbacks, failures, and challenges, but he had never let them define him. Instead, he had used each one as an opportunity to grow and improve. He had built a legacy that would inspire future generations, showing them that no matter how impossible the odds may seem, anything is possible if you work hard enough. And as Raj continued to expand his business, mentor young entrepreneurs, and contribute to society, he realized that the real reward wasn't in the success itself, it was in the journey. The lessons he had learned, the relationships he had built, and the lives he had impacted along the way were what truly mattered. For Raj, the story wasn't just about how he achieved success, but about how he used that success to create something meaningful and lasting. In the end, Raj had proven to the world that success wasn't just about hard work, and it wasn't just about luck. It was about persistence, resilience, and the willingness to keep pushing forward, no matter the odds. And as he looked toward the future, Raj knew that his journey was far from over. There were still more mountains to climb, more dreams to pursue, and more lives to impact. The journey had only just begun. Raj's success continued to grow, and with it, the weight of his achievements began to shift. No longer was he just a small-town entrepreneur working tirelessly to build his business. Now, he was a name known across industries, a symbol of ambition and perseverance. People admired him not just for his success, but for the way he had fought through unimaginable odds to get there. His story became an inspiration for millions of aspiring entrepreneurs, but as he basked in his newfound fame, Raj couldn't help but notice something unsettling. The more successful he became, the more distant he felt from his roots. His days of waking up in a small village, struggling with his family to make ends meet, now seemed like a distant memory. Raj had evolved into a man with influence, power, and wealth, but with that came a new set of challenges that had nothing to do with business. It was the battle for personal identity, the question of who he was outside of the title entrepreneur. As the company expanded, Raj found himself facing the complexities of managing a global empire. He had always been a hands-on leader, but now he had to learn to lead from afar. His business, once a small operation he could manage with his own hands, had become a multinational organization with hundreds of employees, clients, and partners across the globe. Raj had to rely on others to make decisions for him, but as the distance grew between him and his company, he started to feel a growing sense of disconnect. His early days, when he could solve problems with his own creativity and determination, now seemed like a different lifetime. The pressure of leading such a large enterprise began to take a toll on Raj. His time was no longer his own. He had meetings to attend, contracts to sign, and decisions to make that affected people on the other side of the world. The adrenaline of starting a business had been replaced with the weight of maintaining it. The relentless cycle of work, even though it was filled with success, left Raj feeling exhausted. He longed for the simplicity of the early days when he could focus on one problem at a time, solve it, and move on. Now, every decision had far-reaching consequences. On top of this, Raj found himself struggling with loneliness. As he climbed higher on the ladder of success, the people he had once leaned on began to drift away. Old friends, family members, and colleagues started to feel like distant memories, replaced by new faces, people who were more interested in his position than the person he truly was. Raj began to feel like a pawn in a game, where every relationship was transactional and driven by his success. The fame, the fortune, and the recognition all came with a price. The very people who had been by his side in the beginning were no longer around, and Raj couldn't help but wonder if anyone truly saw him as the person he used to be. His business was thriving, but personally, Raj felt more isolated than ever. He had grown distant from his parents, who had once been his biggest supporters. The long hours and constant travel meant that he couldn't spend as much time with them as he used to. His friends, who had once been a part of his everyday life, now seemed like distant strangers. Even his personal relationships became strained. Raj's constant focus on his business left little room for anything else, and he began to question if all the success was worth the price he was paying in terms of his personal happiness. During one of his rare moments of reflection, Raj asked himself if the sacrifices he had made to get to the top were truly worth it. He had always believed that success meant achieving greatness, but now, as he sat at the pinnacle of his career, he realized that success alone didn't bring fulfillment. There was something missing, something he hadn't anticipated when he had started his journey all those years ago. In his search for meaning, Raj took some time off from his business and traveled to his childhood village. It had been years since he had visited, and the sight of his old home, now in disrepair, was a reminder of how far he had come. Raj spent time reflecting on the struggles of his youth and how those challenges had shaped him into the person he was today. The people in the village still remembered him, and he realized that they didn't care about his success. They cared about who he was as a person. The simplicity of life in the village reminded Raj of the things that truly mattered. He spent time with his family, helping his parents with their small farm, and reconnecting with old friends. It wasn't about business or profit, it was about relationships, love, and the bonds that had been formed in the toughest of times. In those moments, Raj began to rediscover what he had lost along the way, the joy of being present, the value of true connection, and the importance of living a life that was meaningful beyond financial success. His time in the village was a turning point for Raj. He returned to his business with a new perspective. He understood that success wasn't just about building an empire, it was about balancing ambition with authenticity. He had spent so many years focused on external achievements that he had neglected the internal ones. Raj realized that true success wasn't about how much money you made or how many people admired you, it was about the quality of your relationships, the impact you had on others, and the peace of mind you gained from being true to yourself. With this newfound wisdom, Raj began to shift the focus of his business. While he still wanted to be successful, he also wanted to create a company that valued its employees, that gave back to the community, and that stayed true to the principles of integrity and fairness that had guided him from the very beginning. He started initiatives that supported education and health in the communities where his company operated. He also prioritized work-life balance for his employees, understanding the toll that the pressure of success could take on a person's mental and emotional well-being. Raj's personal life also began to improve. He made a conscious effort to reconnect with his family and friends, making time for the people who had always been there for him. He stopped viewing relationships as transactions and started seeing them for what they truly were, connections built on trust, respect, and shared experiences. His relationships became deeper and more fulfilling, and Raj began to realize that the people in his life were the true measure of his success, not the number of zeros on his paycheck. Over time, Raj's company continued to thrive, but this time, it was built on a foundation of balance and authenticity. The focus wasn't just on profits, it was on creating a culture where people felt valued and appreciated. Raj had learned that real success came from creating something that mattered, something that made a difference in the lives of others. And as he continued to grow his business, Raj knew that this was the kind of legacy he wanted to leave behind, a legacy of integrity, kindness, and the belief that true success was about more than just wealth and recognition. As Raj stood on the rooftop of his company's headquarters one evening, looking out over the city skyline, he realized that his journey had come full circle. He had built an empire from nothing, faced the greatest challenges, and achieved remarkable success. But now, he understood that the most important success of all was the one that couldn't be measured in dollars and cents. It was the success of living a life that was true to oneself, a life of purpose, connection, and meaning. Raj had found the balance between hard work and happiness, between ambition and authenticity. And as he looked forward to the future, he knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in his life, one where success would no longer be defined by what he had achieved, but by the difference he made in the lives of others. Raj's transformation from an overworked entrepreneur to a fulfilled leader was evident not only in his personal life but in the way his business began to operate. With his newfound understanding of success, he wasn't just focused on the bottom line anymore, he was determined to create a company that would make a lasting impact on the world. It wasn't just about creating wealth, it was about creating a legacy that would transcend financial gain. Raj knew that true success meant empowering others and making a positive difference wherever he could. One of the first things Raj did upon returning to his company after his reflective journey was to restructure his leadership approach. He began to focus on building a strong company culture, one that was rooted in collaboration, trust, and respect. His leadership style shifted from one of control to one of empowerment. Raj understood that the people he had surrounded himself with, his employees, partners, and clients, were the pillars that held up the business. If they thrived, the business would thrive. But if they were overworked, undervalued, or disconnected, the company would suffer, no matter how profitable it was. Raj started by implementing changes to improve work-life balance for his employees. He introduced flexible working hours, mental health initiatives, and an open-door policy that allowed everyone to communicate freely with management. No longer would the company be a high-pressure environment where success was measured by hours worked or tasks completed. Instead, Raj made sure that employees felt valued as individuals, not just as cogs in the machine of the business. He started offering wellness programs, opportunities for personal development, and resources for employees to maintain their mental and emotional health. As Raj worked on improving his company's internal culture, he also realized that the impact of his success could extend far beyond the walls of his business. He had always believed that giving back to the community was important, but now he had the resources to truly make a difference. He founded charitable initiatives that focused on education, healthcare, and environmental sustainability. He set up scholarships for underprivileged students, provided funding for health clinics in underserved areas, and invested in green technologies to reduce the company's carbon footprint. Raj had come to understand that success wasn't just about what you built, but also about what you left behind, how you contributed to the betterment of society. These changes weren't easy to implement. Some of his old colleagues and business partners were skeptical. They questioned why Raj was prioritizing employee well-being and social impact when there were still so many opportunities to expand the company's reach. There were moments of doubt, particularly in the early days when the company's new initiatives seemed to cut into profits. But Raj was unwavering in his commitment. He knew that in the long run, focusing on people, whether they were employees, customers, or communities, would bring greater rewards than chasing short-term gains. Slowly but surely, the changes began to take hold. Employee morale improved, turnover rates dropped, and the company's public image became one of integrity and social responsibility. Raj's business became a model of how success could be achieved while still adhering to ethical values. He began speaking at conferences about the importance of ethical entrepreneurship, emphasizing that companies could be profitable while also doing good in the world. His message resonated with other entrepreneurs who were looking for ways to grow their businesses without sacrificing their values. Raj's influence in the business world expanded, and soon, other companies began to follow his lead. He had started a movement that encouraged businesses to focus not just on profits, but on the impact they had on the world around them. But as much as Raj had achieved in the world of business, he knew there was more to life than professional success. One of the biggest lessons he had learned on his journey was the importance of personal fulfillment. For years, he had sacrificed his own happiness in the pursuit of success, but now, he was focused on finding a better balance. He started spending more time with his family, rekindling relationships that had been strained during the years of relentless work. He made time to travel, to explore new cultures, and to engage in activities that brought him joy. Raj had come to realize that success wasn't just about what you accomplished, it was about the experiences you had along the way and the people you shared them with. His family, who had once been worried about his well-being, began to notice the positive changes in him. His parents, who had supported him through thick and thin, were proud of what he had accomplished, not just in business, but in life. His relationships with his siblings and friends grew stronger as he made a conscious effort to stay connected. Raj also reconnected with the people from his childhood, the ones who had been with him during the toughest times. He realized that no matter how far he had come, the relationships he had built throughout his life were the most meaningful achievements of all. Raj's focus on personal happiness and fulfillment also led him to explore his passions outside of business. He began to take up hobbies he had long neglected, painting, hiking, and reading. These activities allowed him to reconnect with his creativity and imagination, giving him a sense of peace and purpose that had been missing for years. Raj realized that success wasn't just about building an empire, it was about enjoying the journey, discovering new passions, and nurturing the relationships that made life truly rich. As Raj's business continued to flourish, his impact on the world also grew. His philanthropic efforts gained recognition, and he was invited to join boards of organizations that focused on global issues such as poverty, climate change, and education. He was becoming more than just a businessman, he was becoming a thought leader and an advocate for positive change. Raj's story had come full circle. He had gone from struggling to make ends meet to becoming a force for good in the world, all while staying true to the values that had driven him from the very beginning. The question that had once plagued Raj, whether his success was the result of hard work or luck, no longer mattered to him. He had come to understand that success was never just about one factor, it was about a combination of things: hard work, timing, perseverance, and yes, sometimes even luck. But what truly mattered was how you used that success. Raj had chosen to use his to create something meaningful, to give back to the world, and to make a difference in the lives of others. And in doing so, he had found the ultimate fulfillment. Looking ahead, Raj knew that his journey wasn't over. He still had many goals to achieve, many challenges to overcome, and many people to help. But he was no longer driven by the need to prove something to the world. Instead, he was driven by the desire to leave a lasting impact, to inspire others to pursue their own version of success with integrity, and to live a life that was both purposeful and joyful. As Raj stood at the threshold of a new chapter in his life, he reflected on everything that had led him to this point. He had come a long way from the struggling entrepreneur who had started with nothing but a dream. But along the way, he had learned that success wasn't just about what you achieved, it was about the legacy you created, the people you helped, and the difference you made. And in that, Raj had found his true success. Raj's journey had taken him to extraordinary heights, but as the years passed, he realized that the greatest reward of all was the impact he had on the people around him. The legacy he was building wasn't just about his business empire, it was about the lives he had touched, the inspiration he had provided, and the positive change he had initiated. Raj's story had become more than just a tale of success, it had become a blueprint for how business could be a force for good, how hard work could lead to not only personal success but also societal transformation. As the founder of a global company, Raj had gained the privilege of mentoring hundreds of young entrepreneurs. His story was often shared as a shining example of what could be achieved when you never gave up, when you persevered in the face of adversity, and when you stayed true to your values. But Raj didn't just tell his story, he worked with these budding entrepreneurs to help them navigate their own journeys. He provided them with the tools and resources they needed to succeed, not just financially, but ethically. He stressed the importance of finding purpose in business, of aligning profits with principles, and of making decisions that would have a positive impact on the world. Through his mentorship, Raj encouraged a new generation of business leaders who were focused not just on building empires, but on improving the world around them. He worked with social entrepreneurs who aimed to solve some of the planet's most pressing issues, from climate change to poverty. He helped them navigate the complexities of starting businesses that balanced both social and financial goals. Raj had become a champion for those who believed that business could be a tool for good, a way to not just make money, but to solve problems, empower communities, and create lasting change. But Raj's focus on helping others wasn't confined to the business world. He had always believed in the power of education to transform lives, and over the years, he had become deeply involved in philanthropy. His charitable initiatives had grown beyond his company's initial investments. Raj had set up foundations that focused on providing education and resources to disadvantaged communities across the world. He funded schools, provided scholarships, and built libraries where children could access the tools they needed to succeed in life. One of Raj's proudest achievements was the establishment of a global network of educational programs aimed at giving young people the skills they needed to thrive in the digital age. Recognizing the growing demand for technology-related skills, Raj invested in coding academies and digital learning platforms for children in underserved areas. He believed that access to education was a fundamental right, and by providing young people with the skills to succeed in the rapidly evolving world of technology, he was giving them the tools to break the cycle of poverty and build a better future for themselves and their families. Raj's commitment to education extended beyond financial investments. He personally mentored students, traveled to remote areas to speak to young people, and worked with governments and NGOs to improve the quality of education in underserved regions. He understood that change wasn't just about donating money, it was about being present, about engaging with communities, and about using his platform to create real, lasting impact. His focus on education was his way of ensuring that future generations would have the opportunities he had been given, and that they would carry the torch of positive change forward. As Raj continued to invest in education and social impact, he also realized that his journey had come full circle. His business, once a small operation struggling to survive, had become an institution with a global reach. His personal growth, from an ambitious entrepreneur obsessed with success to a compassionate leader focused on purpose, had transformed not just his company, but his worldview. Raj had gone from seeking success for himself to realizing that true fulfillment came from lifting others up, from sharing his knowledge, and from making the world a better place. Despite all his achievements, Raj remained humble. He often told those around him that success wasn't about how much money you made or how many accolades you received, it was about the difference you made in the lives of others. Raj had built an empire, yes, but he had also built a legacy of kindness, integrity, and social responsibility. His story was no longer just about the businessman who defied the odds, it was about the man who chose to use his success to help others, to leave the world better than he had found it. As the years passed, Raj's company continued to grow, but the changes he had made to its core values were embedded in its very culture. The company now placed as much emphasis on social responsibility and employee well-being as it did on profits. The business community took notice, and many of Raj's peers began to follow his lead. Companies that once viewed social responsibility as a secondary concern began to incorporate it into their business models. The idea that business could be a force for good gained traction, and Raj's work inspired countless others to rethink the way they approached success. Even as Raj's company flourished, he never lost sight of his personal life. He continued to prioritize his family and friends, cherishing the relationships that had been with him through thick and thin. He spent more time with his parents, his siblings, and his closest friends. He continued to explore his passions and hobbies, making sure that he never lost touch with the things that brought him joy and peace. Raj's journey had taught him that while business success was important, it was the people in your life and the moments you shared with them that truly mattered. But as Raj looked back on his journey, he also realized that his success had been a journey of transformation. He had evolved from a driven entrepreneur focused on achieving personal success to a compassionate leader who saw his business as a tool for making a positive impact. He had learned that success wasn't just about building wealth, it was about living with purpose, creating opportunities for others, and making the world a better place. Raj's story had become a testament to the power of perseverance, hard work, and the importance of aligning one's actions with their values. And so, Raj continued on his journey, not just as a businessman, but as a global advocate for change. He continued to mentor, to give back, and to inspire. His story, once defined by his personal struggle, had now become one of empowerment, empowering others to pursue their dreams, to lead with integrity, and to make a difference in the world. Raj had achieved the ultimate success, a life of purpose, fulfillment, and a lasting legacy of positive impact. Raj's journey from struggling entrepreneur to global success had come full circle. As the years went by, he continued to inspire countless individuals, not just through his business achievements, but through the way he lived his life. His story was one that exemplified the power of resilience, integrity, and the pursuit of purpose over profit. But even as Raj stood at the pinnacle of success, he couldn't help but feel that there was still more to be done, more to be learned, and more to contribute to the world. It was during one of these reflective moments that Raj decided to take his impact to an entirely new level. He realized that the impact he had made thus far, through his business, his philanthropic efforts, and his mentorship, was substantial, but there was still a crucial element missing, a global platform to amplify the voices of those who had the potential to make a difference, but lacked the opportunity or resources to do so. Raj began to think about how he could create a space where new ideas, social innovations, and impactful projects could not only thrive but also be supported by the vast network he had built over the years. Raj's idea was simple yet profound. He wanted to build an international organization that would support social entrepreneurs from around the world, individuals and teams who were focused not on financial gain but on solving the world's most pressing issues. These were people who might not have the same access to resources, investors, or mentors as the traditional startup world, but whose ideas had the potential to change lives on a massive scale. Raj envisioned an organization that would provide these innovators with the tools, capital, and guidance they needed to bring their visions to life. In the early stages, Raj faced skepticism. His peers in the business world didn't quite understand the need for an organization focused on social innovation, particularly one that didn't promise financial returns. However, Raj, driven by his own evolution, was resolute in his belief that the world needed more than just businesses chasing profits, it needed solutions to real-world problems. He invested a significant portion of his wealth into this new initiative, believing that supporting social entrepreneurs was not just a moral responsibility but a way to catalyze lasting change in the world. He set up the organization with a clear focus on three core pillars: education, healthcare, and environmental sustainability. Raj wanted to ensure that the world's most pressing issues were being tackled by those who had the passion and drive to make a difference but often lacked the platform to do so. The organization would offer financial backing, mentorship, and networking opportunities, bringing together the brightest minds from various sectors to work on projects that could transform communities globally. Raj's organization quickly gained traction, attracting applications from talented entrepreneurs in every corner of the world. The ideas that flooded in were diverse, ranging from innovative solutions to improve access to clean water in rural areas to cutting-edge health technologies designed to combat infectious diseases. Raj personally reviewed many of the applications and met with the individuals behind these projects, offering guidance and encouragement. The stories he heard were nothing short of inspiring, and Raj felt more energized than ever before. He knew that his decision to create this organization had been the right one. It was giving him the opportunity to multiply his impact, to support those who were truly making a difference, and to help them bring their projects to life. Through the organization, Raj helped launch hundreds of initiatives that had a direct impact on millions of people. He saw clean energy projects taking off in areas that had been dependent on fossil fuels, affordable healthcare models being introduced in underserved communities, and educational platforms giving children in remote regions access to resources they had never had before. The success stories that emerged from these initiatives were humbling, and Raj knew that he was playing just a small part in the broader movement of positive change that was sweeping across the globe. Raj's involvement in the organization went beyond just financial backing. He became a mentor and advocate for the social entrepreneurs he supported. He believed deeply in the power of community, and he worked hard to create a network of like-minded individuals who could share their knowledge, expertise, and resources. The organization became a hub for collaboration, bringing together people from different industries, backgrounds, and cultures to work toward the common goal of creating a better world. Raj often hosted summits and forums where social innovators could pitch their ideas, share their experiences, and learn from one another. These events fostered a sense of solidarity and unity among individuals who had often felt isolated in their efforts to make a difference. But as Raj's organization grew, so did the challenges. The scale of the initiatives began to put pressure on the infrastructure Raj had set up, and soon, he found himself navigating complex logistical, political, and economic barriers. Some of the projects he had invested in were facing setbacks due to local regulations, lack of infrastructure, or unexpected challenges in implementation. There were moments of doubt when it seemed like the road ahead was uncertain, but Raj refused to let those obstacles deter him. He knew that true change was never easy, and the difficulties only made the successes even more meaningful. Despite the challenges, Raj remained committed to his mission. He expanded his organization's reach, establishing partnerships with governments, NGOs, and other philanthropic organizations. These collaborations allowed him to scale his impact even further, ensuring that the social entrepreneurs he supported had the resources and networks they needed to succeed. Raj's organization became a symbol of hope for those who believed that business could be a force for good, that success wasn't just about accumulating wealth but about using resources to improve lives and create lasting change. Through it all, Raj remained grounded. He continued to live by the values that had driven him from the very beginning: hard work, integrity, and a commitment to making the world a better place. He never lost sight of the people who had been with him on this journey: his family, his friends, his mentors, and the many individuals who had been inspired by his story. Raj understood that his success was not an isolated achievement, it was part of a larger movement, one that had the power to change the world. As he looked out over the global network he had helped build, Raj couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of pride and fulfillment. His journey had started with a single idea, born from a desire to escape poverty and create something meaningful. But as he had grown and evolved, so had his vision. He had gone from being a young man with a dream to a leader who had transformed industries, empowered communities, and created opportunities for future generations. Raj's story was no longer just about business, it was about legacy. He had built an empire, yes, but more importantly, he had built a world that was more equitable, more sustainable, and more connected. The true measure of Raj's success was not the wealth he had accumulated or the accolades he had received, but the lives he had touched, the communities he had uplifted, and the change he had inspired in the world. And as Raj stood at the helm of this global movement, he knew that his work was far from finished. The world was full of challenges, but it was also full of possibilities. Raj had proven that with vision, determination, and a commitment to purpose, anything was possible. And with that, he continued his journey, not as a businessman chasing wealth, but as a global advocate for change, determined to leave a legacy that would last for generations to come. Raj's commitment to making a difference never wavered, even as his influence grew and his organization expanded globally. He had established a legacy of impact, but he also recognized that the world was constantly evolving, and so too must his efforts. As the challenges facing the planet grew more complex, climate change, economic inequality, access to healthcare, and global political instability, Raj knew that the work he had started would require continuous innovation, fresh ideas, and a long-term vision. He had always been someone who embraced change, and as he looked ahead, Raj saw an opportunity to redefine the very concept of success once again. He had seen firsthand how business could be a force for good, but now, he wanted to create a new paradigm, one where the intersections of business, technology, and social good could combine to address the planet's most pressing challenges in ways that had never been imagined before. This new vision began to take shape as Raj realized that technology could play a pivotal role in solving some of the world's most difficult problems. With the rapid advancements in artificial intelligence, renewable energy, biotechnology, and other cutting-edge fields, Raj understood that the potential for change was limitless. But he also knew that these technologies had to be developed and implemented with care. Ethical considerations were paramount. Raj set his sights on creating a network of innovators who were not just tech-focused but who were committed to using their expertise to create solutions that prioritized the well-being of people and the planet. He began to collaborate with scientists, engineers, and technologists from around the world, bringing together experts who shared his vision of combining business acumen with technological solutions to global problems. Raj's idea was to create an ecosystem where technology was not just about profit, but about humanity. He wanted to harness the power of innovation to address issues like food scarcity, clean water access, sustainable energy production, and public health crises, all while ensuring that these solutions were equitable and accessible to everyone. This new initiative, which Raj called Tech for Good, quickly gained momentum. Startups, established companies, and even large corporations who were once hesitant to invest in social good now found themselves drawn to the idea of using technology for positive impact. Raj's network became a hub for collaboration, where diverse ideas and industries could come together to solve real-world problems. Whether it was AI-powered solutions for disaster relief or blockchain-based systems for transparent and efficient distribution of aid, Raj's initiative allowed for the kind of breakthrough thinking that could change the world. As Tech for Good grew, Raj faced challenges similar to those he had encountered earlier in his journey. Some of the tech solutions were ahead of their time, and it took longer than anticipated to bring them to fruition. Others faced resistance due to regulatory hurdles or market reluctance. However, Raj's approach remained consistent. He believed that innovation had to be driven by a sense of responsibility. He worked with governments and policy makers to ensure that these new technologies would be used in ways that were ethical, safe, and beneficial to society as a whole. He became an advocate for responsible innovation, ensuring that the pace of technological advancement didn't outstrip society's ability to adapt to it. One of the most transformative projects Raj spearheaded through Tech for Good was the development of a global platform for sustainable agriculture. This platform used a combination of AI, data analytics, and climate modeling to help farmers in developing countries increase their yields while reducing their environmental impact. It offered insights on soil health, water usage, and crop management, all tailored to the unique needs of each region. By providing smallholder farmers with the tools and knowledge they needed to succeed, Raj was not only helping to address food insecurity but also empowering farmers to become stewards of the land. The platform's success in Africa and South Asia became a shining example of how technology could be used to uplift entire communities. Raj's initiative helped thousands of farmers transition to more sustainable practices, ultimately improving food security and creating economic opportunities for families. It was a powerful reminder of the ripple effect that one person's vision could have when applied with dedication and integrity. But Raj didn't stop there. He recognized that the future of the planet depended on the next generation of leaders, thinkers, and innovators. He became a passionate advocate for education in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM, particularly for young women and marginalized groups who had been historically excluded from these fields. Through his philanthropic foundation, Raj launched several programs aimed at providing scholarships, mentorship, and internship opportunities for students pursuing careers in STEM. He worked to create an inclusive ecosystem that would encourage young people from all backgrounds to engage in the technologies that were shaping the future. Raj's involvement in education became one of his most personal endeavors. He saw it as his duty to pass on the knowledge and opportunities that had been afforded to him, just as others had done for him when he was starting out. Raj spent countless hours speaking to students, inspiring them with his own journey and showing them that with hard work, passion, and the right mindset, they could achieve anything they set their minds to. As the Tech for Good initiative expanded, Raj found himself speaking at global forums, advising governments, and collaborating with international organizations. He became a respected voice in discussions about how technology could be harnessed for social good, urging leaders to adopt policies that prioritized sustainability, equity, and responsibility. His global influence had grown exponentially, but Raj remained the same humble person he had always been, driven by a singular goal: to leave the world a better place than he had found it. Looking back, Raj could see how far he had come. His journey had started with nothing but a dream, but over the years, that dream had evolved into something far greater than he could have ever imagined. He had built a successful business empire, but more importantly, he had built a movement. Raj had shown the world that success didn't have to come at the cost of ethics or social responsibility. He had proved that business, when done right, could be a force for good, capable of addressing the world's most pressing challenges. And so, Raj continued on his journey, focused not just on business success but on the kind of world he wanted to leave behind. He knew that the road ahead would be full of obstacles, but he was no longer worried. He had the knowledge, the experience, and the network to overcome anything. More importantly, he had the unwavering belief that positive change was possible. And as he looked ahead to the future, he remained driven by a singular question: what more could he do to make the world better? The ultimate measure of Raj's success was no longer about wealth or recognition, it was about the legacy he was leaving behind. A legacy of purpose, of innovation, of impact. Raj had achieved the impossible, and in doing so, he had proven that success wasn't about luck or chance, it was about the choices you make, the values you uphold, and the difference you choose to make in the lives of others.